嫌いゆえに滅びろ。
アンドレー虫けらがアイン様に対しての無礼許すものか。逃がすか。
アルベドやめろ。そこまでだ。
So right off the bat this week, I just need to know if any of you had the same reaction that I did. And that is when this character in armor, in white donned armor showed up. Did you also go, oh shit, it's the dragon? Because that's what I did. That was my immediate thing. It was like, I literally wrote it down. It was like, shit, it's the dragon. And I thought that was so cool. So depending if you remember or not, this person specifically, this armor set, this Riku, he made up his name, right? He made up his name, but he made up the name of 𝐒𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 or something like that. And obviously that was a made up name, but if you remember, there was a scene, I think either earlier this season or maybe in season 3, but or maybe even season 2, but there was a scene specifically where I think one of the older ladies from the Theocracy, I want to say, or maybe she wasn't from the Theocracy, maybe she was from the Kingdom, but basically an old person who was like a really well-known, revered fighter who had given Gastov, or Gastov Ronov, whatever his name is, she had given him some of his specific items that he had used. She had passed it down to him. I believe this is what the story was. But she had met with this dragon, and the dragon explained to us, and I really wish I could be like, oh, that was the specific season it happened, but the dragon explained to us that at some point, and this is prior to the New World, I think, or at least prior to 𝐼𝐻's, transition into this world, he had fought with 𝐜𝐡𝐴. So he had fought with 𝐜𝐡𝐴 before, and that was one of the like highest moments of his life, like largest fights that he's ever had before. So I love that we got to see him again come into this episode, and I love the misdirection that this episode had too, because at the end of the episode, we actually found out that he wasn't in fact fighting with 𝐼𝐻 at all. It wasn't 𝐼𝐻 and Albedo here. It was actually Albedo and Pandora's actor. And when that happened, I had a feeling too, because when he was like, oh, I'm surprised 𝐼𝐻 couldn't break the barrier, and my first thought was, well, 𝐼𝐻, maybe he just didn't want to. Maybe he was just kind of more observing the barrier versus, really be like, oh, look at this here. And I like how the dragon also got confused of like, oh, who's the NPC? Who's the player? I was like, okay, that's funny too. He thought that Albedo was the player, but he called out, was like, oh, Albedo could break the world barrier, but 𝐼𝐻 could not. So we come to find out later on, well, the reason is because Pandora's actor didn't have a world item to actually be able to do that. So it all kind of like, it came full circle, and it totally makes sense. And I love how now the assessment of 𝐼𝐻's strength is on the level of Pandora's actor. Very, very strong. And I love that at the end of the day too, even the dragon admitted, is like, is it possible to defeat him? Yes. Is it going to be like almost impossible? Yes. Is there a way? Yes. Can we do it? Yes. It's going to be very tricky, but there is a possibility now that we can defeat 𝐼𝐻, which is really just, they have to muster up the strength of the world to go and defeat Pandora's actor, actually, not 𝐼𝐻. So I love that 𝐼𝐻 was just kind of like constructing and watching this fight go down the whole entire time. And I love that we kind of got that misdirection here. That really made, personally, that really made the episode for me. And Pandora's actor, the way he's able to copy abilities and stuff was so cool. I also love just watching the fight between them two. I was like, okay, we got a little Sakuga, we got a little 𝐼𝐻's fight. We got a little extra fight scenes here. And anytime that we get to see 𝐼𝐻 engage in battle, even though it was, actually Pandora's actor, but regardless, anytime we get to see 𝐼𝐻 engage in battle, it's always a cool thing. And when he went for the grass part and it didn't work, I was like, but then obviously we came to realize that the armor was just simply being controlled remotely, as well as a weapon. So we got to find that out as well. So that whole entire fight was awesome. The fight with Azuth, whatever his name is, Mr. Gundam guy, I'm not a big fan of this character specifically, just because, like, okay, now all of a sudden, for the first time in 4 seasons, we now have guns in this world. Guns exist. Okay, how does he get his ammo? Where does he get his ammo at? He seems to be the only gun wielder I've ever seen in the anime so far. So I'm not a fan of like this whole like, oh, guns being present in this world. Obviously, you know, the armor that he's donning, you know, it descends from Yggdrasil. And one of the questions was like, yo, how did this dude even get this armor? Well, we found out that the dragon is actually the one that gave him the armor and is now even considering giving it to somebody else who might be more powerful and more well-equipped. But regardless, you know, that's where he got the armor from. And this armor is fully decked out. Like, it's full on Power Ranger. You guys were calling it Gundam, so we'll go with that. But, like, you know, definitely like a power suit. You know, full and through, like it's a power suit, you know, being able to engage in magic, being able to engage your bullets. And even Albedo called him out like, oh, you're trying to hit me with non-magical items? Like, that ain't gonna work, homie. And then obviously it has a lot of magical abilities, but I'm just not a fan of them 4 seasons in introducing, oh, guns actually exist. Even if they are Yggdrasil items, like, I'm just not really a fan of that narrative because we've never seen it this whole entire time, and now all of a sudden guns exist, at least in the fashion of this one dude, Azuth, or whatever his name is. So that's interesting. Taking a step back at the beginning episode, I like how the king of the kingdom was, you know, basically he had dismissed all of his people that worked for him, you know, so hopefully they can try and go save themselves. I like his specific quote, how he wanted to be the last person meeting the conqueror. He wanted to be the person meeting the conqueror as the last king of the kingdom. I actually thought that was pretty cool. And the last thing I'll talk about is they also Sheltier went to go save all of Hilma's people, and apparently she saved about 1,000 people. And there was one dude who we got to see. This was one of the fights before with Sebes. Where Sebes had taken down the 8 fingers or 9 fingers or whatever the hell they were. And one of the dudes that was very eccentric, he had taken down, and apparently he was part of Hilma's group. So he is now saved, and they took him back, as well as the other 1,000 people. They put them up at a site inside of the kingdom. And they set them up all nice. But this specific brand new guy, he had to go and be, I like how they call it, baptized. And I can't say the guy's name, Koopa. He had to go basically be played with, you know, for a little bit before he could be sent back. So they called that his baptism. But overall, like, this was a fantastic episode. You know, easily 9 out of 10 episode. There's some flaws, yeah, a little bit, but I mean, isn't there in everything? So that's why I won't call it 10 out of 10. Because I mean, if we were to sit here and be super duper critical, I'm sure we could find 1, 2, or 3 things that we didn't like about the episode. But overall, I love the episode. I thought it was fantastic. I think this was a great episode. Definitely kept me on my toes. And that twist at the end with Pandora's actor, I did not expect. So that kind of came and hit me through the side. So I really love that misdirection. I love seeing the dragon. Love seeing the armor. Everything about this episode I thought was dope. We have 2 more episodes left before the end of the season. This one was episode number 11. So we have number 12 and 13 left. So hopefully we get, obviously we get the full invasion of the kingdom before the season ends, but hopefully there's a little nougat of something else that'd be really cool for us. All right, I'll let you guys know those thoughts. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.